Hey guys, in today's video we'll be going over builds of attacker characters in Pokemon Unite. Something I've been requested to do since a while already, so let's start. So today's video is just about attackers. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like, subscribe, and let me know for which role you would like to see me make this next. So let's just start with Cinderace. Best moveset currently is Flame Charge and Pyro Ball. It's outclassing Feint and Blaze Kick, who used to be popular but just got nerfed a bit. Quite a lot. Pyro Ball does insane damage, very good last hit as well to secure Dreadnoughts, to secure Zapdoses. Yeah, very powerful. Head items, very classic. The Muscle Band Buddy Barrier, Muscle Band on pretty much every range auto attack character. It's just one of the best items. Buddy Barrier because you need, in case you get dove on in late game team fights, it's very easy for your ultimate to proc Buddy Barrier and just have safe peel. Without it, you probably just get ran over in team fights. So Buddy Barrier is also required. And so yeah, I have the items in 2 slots for the hate items. These are 2 that I always think are required, and then the last one can be most often a flex item. I personally prefer Scope Lens, but you can also go with Focus Band. For better items, classic eject button, always the right choice, always a good choice. If you know what you're playing against, you can also go full heal. The problem with full heal is that you don't know what you play against before going into a game, so full heal might be useless, but full heal is very good on Cinderace, and for sure a recommended better item if you play maybe tournaments or know what kind of team comp you play against. Next up, we have Cramorant. Currently the best moveset is the Hurricane and Surf. You can also play Air/Dive. I would not really recommend playing it on controller though. It's honestly fine to use on phone, but on controller the dive is very, very hard to... So the problem with dive is it does damage, right? And sometimes you just want to dive away from someone and you have to drag the entire... Like, it always target an enemy, so you have to drag it very far away and just take so much time on controller, since you can't just randomly speed it up. So wouldn't recommend playing it on controller, but you can. I think it's more for fun build. If you really want to play Cramorant well, you probably should play Hurricane and Surf. Has great damage and great CC. For the hate items, we play Buddy Barrier and Energy Amplifiers, our 2 main items, which I would always recommend. Buddy Barrier, so you don't die, you don't just die in your ultimate. Otherwise, if you don't have unrun Buddy Barrier, people will just honestly just run you down while you're ulting and you will die. Energy Amp, I mean, having 20% more damage on your ultimate or 21% more damage on your ultimate is kind of nice. Also cooldown reduction, so you have more Hurricanes and Surfs up. This is one of the only ranged attackers where I don't play Muscle Band on, just because I think his auto attack animation is one of the worst in the game, and honestly it feels dreadful to even auto attack with this character. So yeah. For flex items, I would also run Focus Band or Choice Specs if you want to have a bit more single target damage. Choice Specs is great for bursting someone down. Otherwise, Focus Band, always the safe option. And for Cramorant, we only play Eject Button. Next up, Decidueye. I personally recommend Razor Leaf together with Shadow Sneak, depending on what you play against. But you can also play Spirit Shackle and Shadow Sneak. I would never go Leaf Tornado, personally. So one is more auto attack based, the other one has a bit more range. To the head items, I personally prefer Muscle Band and Scope Lens, just 2 very heavy damage items, scale very well with the Decidueye. And then for flex items, so this kind of depends. Do you play Spirit Shackle? I think you can go Focus Band. Since you play from very far away, you don't really get dove. But if you play Razor Leaf, you're kind of in the midst of certain things sometimes, and then I would prefer running Buddy Barrier, even just as a safety tool if someone dives you and you want to auto-take, you just pop your ultimate, get a shield. You can cancel your ultimate again after 1 second, and then you have a big shield and you can just start auto-taking someone. That also works quite well. And for better items, I would recommend Eject Button or X-Speed. Depending on what you play against, again, you don't know, but X-Speed fits Razor Leaf very well. If you play Spirit Shackle, I would always go Eject Button, but in general, you can just obviously always go Eject Button. But I think X-Speed works very well with Razor Leaf and his auto-attack range. Next up, we have Gardevoir. So I personally prefer Psyshock with Moonblast. You can also play Future Sight. It just depends on what you do. If you play Jungle Gardevoir, Future Sight is kind of fine because you reach the plus Future Sight very fast. And in lane, I would always go Psyshock in case you, for some reason, play lane Gardevoir. You should for sure go Psyshock because, again, you need a lot of levels before Future Sight becomes a good ability. But you can also see, like, let's say you have a Wigglytuff in your team, you have some good CC, then you can consider going Future Sight. Besides that, just go Psyshock. Very consistent, and besides that, I would still always recommend Moonblast. Very, very strong ability, very good stun. Psychic got buffed, but I think it's just a lackluster ability compared to these 2. This also makes you hit your skill shots much easier. Lets you combo well with Future Sight on your own too. For hate items, it's a bit questionable on Gardevoir, but I would still recommend Muscle Band, especially if you're jungling or for early laning, because your early laning is so bad that you just don't have any damage without Muscle Band. And for jungling as well, it helps you clearing the camps much faster for early game and also makes your ganks a bit stronger. Also, Muscle Band again is just a great item. It allows you to do Zapdos faster, Dreadnoughts faster, Rotoms faster, just by auto-attacking. So late game, you might not auto-attack much as Gardevoir, but you still would get more value out of this item than any special attack item in the game, just by using your auto-attacks well. Then Buddy Barrier, just for late game teamfights, or for the important team fight, you just want Buddy Barrier. You press ultimate, someone gets a shield, you get a shield. Very straightforward. And for flex items, if you want a bit more safer, you can go Focus Band. Otherwise, Choice Specs is also a great item, because Gardevoir has very high special attack scaling, so it actually does quite nice damage. For better items, I would always go eject button. Yeah, not much else to say. This character needs eject button. Alright, Greninja. Currently, the best moveset on him is Double Team and Water Shuriken. Since ever they buffed Double Team to mimic his abilities, or also to like damage, Water Shuriken and Double Team has been very, very strong. Water Shuriken does a lot of damage, has very low cooldown. It's just more consistent than Surf and Smokescreen, which is something you can still play if you think you can just dive through the enemy backline and just get 2 or 3 Surf resets. It's still good to go, but Water Shuriken Double Team is just more consistent and always good. For held items, recommending as well Muscle Band and Buddy Barrier as the 2 main ones. Pretty much similar to Cinderace. Again, you auto-attack a lot, Muscle Band, great item. Buddy Barrier, if you jump into your opponents, you need Buddy Barrier. If you don't want Buddy Barrier, you sometimes just die in your ultimate. And as well, it just allows you to stick to a target. Having that big shield and him having a very, very strong melee basic attack makes him just stick to a target after ultimating and just run anyone down. For flex items, for the 3rd slot, I would either recommend Scope Lens or Focus Band. Again, depending on what you prefer, both are totally fine. I personally prefer also Scope Lens again, but you can do both. And for better items, either eject button or full heal. Same story as Cinderace. If you feel like the opponents might have a lot of CC, full heal is very strong, and he's one of the characters that can use it. Otherwise, always eject button. Next up, we have Ninetales. Currently, Avalanche Blizzard is the best moveset. It got quite nicely buffed, and it does a lot of damage right now. The alternative moveset is still Dazzling Gleam and Aurora Veil, which is also still fine, but I think it's just a tiny bit weaker now. And Blizzard Avalanche actually feels kind of strong as well, so would recommend going that. For held items, still range auto attacker, Muscle Band gives you good early game laning phase, and it also gives you good, again, objective clear. Just being able to do damage to Dreadnought, Rotom, Zapdos is very important. Buddy Barrier, straightforward, you have in the middle of a team fight when you press ultimate, so you need your shield, and giving your LA shields obviously also still very good. And for flex items, either Choice Specs for more single target damage, or Focus Band for more survivability. It's up to you again. It just depends. Do you like to be more aggressive, or do you just want to be like, if I live longer, I do more damage anyway, so I don't need more damage items. So then you just go Focus Band. And better items, always eject button on Ninetales. You can also combine your ultimate with the eject button, so you can press ult, and then blink into your opponents, and it'll still go off, and it's similar to Blastoise, it can just catch people off guard. And yeah, always eject button. Next up, Pikachu. My recommended moveset is Thunder and Thunderbolt. Thunder got a buff some patches ago. Does quite a lot of damage now. For alternative moveset, I would stay with Thunderbolt. I think it's just much better than Volt Tackle. Volt Tackle often gets you into bad positions, so not a big fan of it. Or you can also go Electro Ball over Thunder, but I would say Thunder just does a bit more currently. But if you want to have a bit more single target damage, then that you don't have to aim as well since it's point and click, you can go Electro Ball. For head items, again, we see the classic Muscle Band Buddy Barrier, which we will see through the entire video pretty much. Pikachu has one of the highest auto attack ranges in the game. Very strong for early game, very strong for mid and late game. You will always auto attack something, even if it's just frontline. Again, Zapdos, Dreadnought, recommended. And for flex item, Focus Band or Energy Amp. Energy Amp is actually quite good on Pikachu if you press ultimate, use both of your abilities. You can nuke, or you have very, very good AoE damage. But if you want to be more safer, since there's currently a lot of Talon Flames or Carriers around, just go Focus Band. And for bad items, also always eject button. So like full heal on these characters doesn't really make sense because they have no mobility, so what are you full healing if you stay in them, you know? So you need eject button to just get out. Also you can just, I really like being aggressive with my ultimate and blinks sometimes in and just ult and get a huge AoE damage off. Next up, we have Sylveon. Currently the best moveset I would say is the Hyper Voice and Carmine. Very strong for laning phase. Mystical Fire Draining Kiss is good, but I would only play it if you play Jungle Sylveon, which I don't really necessarily recommend. but I would not play Mystic Fire in lane. It's just, if you're the same level as your opponent, it's kind of weak. You will just not do enough damage to ever confirm anything. And Hyper Voice is very, very strong level 4 Power Spike for laning. Makes Sylveon a big lane bully against certain characters. For hit items, we go pretty safe. Since Sylveon has a lot of damage, we just go Buddy Bear or Focus Band. Pretty much every game. And for flex items, you can either go Choice Specs for more single target burst. You can go Vice Glasses for more AoE damage. And you can go Muscle Band if you play Mystical Fire. So Muscle Band is only there because it's good in Mystical Fire. So if you play Jungle Mystical Fire, Draining, Kiss, Sylveon, you want to go Muscle Band over those. If you play Hyper Voice, Calm Mind, you go Choice Specs or Vice Glasses. And for better items also, Eject Button. And for the last Pokemon, we have Venusaur. Currently the best moveset is Giga Drain and Pet Dance. Still very, very strong, even though it got nerfed a bit. Makes Venusaur one of the best late game carries in the game. Can pretty much 1v5 certain team comps if left alone. The alternative moveset is Sludge Bomb and Solar Beam, which I think is also still very good if the enemies have let's say the enemies have a lot of CC. And just very like backline heavy team comps, Solar Beam, Sludge Bomb can be quite good. Besides that, head items always Muscle Band and Body Barrier. Straightforward again, you auto-attack a lot on Venusaur, especially in Pet Dance. You will auto-attack a lot since you run into them. Giga Drain, auto-attack, auto-attack, auto-attack. Body Barrier to keep yourself alive. And then for flex items, you can either go Focus Band or Score Shield, depending on your playstyle. Both are totally fine. Score Shield is an insane item. This is probably the only ranged character that can use Score Shield kind of well. Because, I mean, Pet Dance makes her more of a melee character as well. Pretty tanky. Or just Focus Band if you just, don't want to die in teamfights and just clutch out teamfights. Otherwise, Score Shield is great for solo queue as well, if you can abuse your advantage quite well. For better items, I would recommend if you play Pet Dance, Giga Drain, you go full heal. Because all you care about is running into them and getting your full heals off, getting your Giga Drains off. So if anything stops you from doing that, you will die. And then full heal is kind of nice for that. You just pop full heal, get your Giga Drains off, and just auto-attack a lot. Otherwise, Eject Button also always fine. You can also take that in Pet Dance, Giga Drain, and in Solar Beam, Sludge Bomb, you always go Eject Button. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you want to see next. Bye!